Thank you, Senator Padilla, for joining us today at our eighth annual Water Data Summit that the California Data Collaborative puts on to showcase great work and leadership throughout the state and actually the world when it comes to data and the revolutionary work that's being done. So thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. And I know it's great. This is a wonderful convergence of two priorities for California, passions of mine, water, water, water. We know all about that, and we'll be talking about that, but also data which informs policy, data which helps us innovate from a technology standpoint to problem solve in a number of areas, including water and other natural resources.
Well, and that's just music to our ears to know that your leadership and support is with water and data. And our theme this year, because every year we like to pick a theme, our theme this year is intelligent questioning, IQ, and sharing water wisdom. And I know in your capacity as a legislator over the years, you've asked some very key questions to get at the issue, to understand the issue, come up with solutions that make an impact. And I just wanted to get your thoughts of how do you describe to people the importance of asking good questions and how did you get so good at it?
The first thing that comes to mind is, being inspired by Albert Einstein, not just his work, theory of relativity, et cetera, but a lot of the quotes and lessons he's known for. Probably the most inspiring to me is questions are more important than answers, right? It's the constant search for knowledge, for better information, that drives curiosity, whether it's for hobby, for pleasure, but also for serious business. For me, it dovetails with my training as an engineer. Unlike most of my colleagues, my background is in mechanical engineering. Worked briefly in aerospace before running for office, but I think that critical thinking that engineers are trained in has certainly helped me from my days on the Los Angeles City Council, where we oversaw the largest municipal utility in America, the Department of Water and Power. My time in the state legislature, same thing, tackling water issues for all of California, north of the Delta, south of the Tehachapis, everywhere in between, dealing with water infrastructure concerns. And now in this capacity as a senator, having an appreciation for not just water issues in California and water infrastructure issues in California, but how we tie into our neighbors throughout the West and look at policy more broadly. So, like any good engineer, you start with, well, what information do I have? What information do I know? What information do I need to know? How do I go get more data, more information? And then how do we tie it all together? What theories apply? What equations apply? What's the problem we're trying to solve? Asking a key question or the right question helps us think through that to arrive at a better output. And I'm always looking at not just this question versus that question, what's the best question, right? I'm trying to find the question that serves as a catalyst for a conversation or for a negotiation breakthrough.
And when you do that, sometimes do you get pushback from people? Because I think as we get older, we get a little bit tentative about asking questions because sometimes the questions get misconstrued as somehow you're questioning them. How do you navigate that?
Yeah, I think especially when it's in public, right? Because I can have a meeting in my office and ask questions, and I think my tone and demeanor may set the right context for it. But when it's in public in a hearing, witnesses certainly are maybe a little bit nervous on the natural and think, oh my God, this is just an excuse for the senator to try to show up. No, no. So there's always a preface to the question. Let me explain what it is I want to find out, why I want to find out, and we're working together, sort of a help me help you or help me help you help me tone and context for the conversation. And so hopefully that's a little disarming and lets people come forward with the right information. And look, as you know, sometimes the truth, the real data, the real information is not pretty. It's not fun because we have some serious challenges, whether it's historic lack of investment and deferred maintenance to water quality concerns. Right now we're trying to address a lot of water affordability concerns. But unless you put out the truth and what is, we're not going to get to where we need to be. So we need to not be afraid of having those hard conversations.
And that's the heart of the California Data Collaborative, not being afraid to ask questions, to challenge ourselves, to look at the facts and not just argue based on emotions and what we think it is. And our group has grown over the years. We've been around a little over 8 years, and we represent 21 million Californians. This is our eighth annual summit. We have just a great community of thinkers and doers. And I just want to see what you thought about our growth, because you mentioned the importance of water and data, and that's what this is really about, bringing it together. And just your perspective on the Data Collaborative.
Yeah. Well, for starters, to be honest, I'm not surprised that you've grown so much in just 8 years. 21 million, that's more than half the population of the state of California. More than the 20 million people that rely on Colorado River water, for example, because of how big the water challenges have been. If you look at the last decade, it hasn't just been wildfires, wildfires, wildfires that are the result of climate change, but our sustained drought and the reduced supply of water for environmental protection, for municipal use, for agriculture, etc. So it has really forced it on the attention of so many people, particularly those in the water and utility industry. So the data collaborative is filling that void, bringing people together. Let's problem solve by collaboration and cooperation, not through competition. But on the other hand, it's uh, again, it's a natural venue for people who realize this is our new reality because of climate change. We had a really wet winter this last winter, which has triggered other conversations more about storage versus supply. But you also look at the recent significant investments by the federal government and the state government for water infrastructure, whether it's canals, whether it's storage facilities, whether it's water recycling and groundwater recharge. There's so much happening in the space right now. It's become the priority it's needed to be, and you have the level of engagement and interest that you're seeing.
And as you said, the problems are mounting. We're always in this cycle of crisis. It's not even climate change, it's climate whiplash. You're hearing all this, which really drives the urgency for solutions. Yet, as you know all too well, there's still a lot of people who hold out for the status quo and do not want to get into being innovative and creative. And although we represent 21 million Californians, there's still millions that are not being represented through this effort. What would you say to those people who feel that, data is great, AI is great, but we're fine doing what we're doing?
Yeah, it's I think the folks that are taking that attitude and not participating yet are maybe a little bit in denial because we had a really wet winter. The whiplash you're talking about from sustained drought to you know how many atmospheric rivers that we had in the first quarter of this year. We just had a potential hurricane or tropical depression come through Southern California for the first time in the better part of a century. But that's not the new normal. I think we're going to go back to very dry summers, next summer, the summer after that. And so it's only a matter of time before the folks who haven't uh, uh, joined and begin participating will see the need to, not just the interest in, not just the desire to, but the need to, because we're in it together. Our shared infrastructure uh, reminds us that we are interconnected. If you look at just California, where we get most of our rainfall annually is not in the big population centers. And so we have a conversation, for starters, from where the rain falls to where we need that water supply. And we know it's not just a north to south conversation. I mentioned Colorado River earlier in our conversation. That's significant, but also a reducing supply over time. And so it's really, I think, elevated and prioritized our conversations about water efficiency, not just in the residential sector, but in the commercial and industrial sector. Water recycling programs, which were taboo a few decades ago. I remember those early conversations, but thanks to some successes in Orange County and Los Angeles and elsewhere, it's now a new normal, and we've seen the benefit of thinking outside the box.
As someone who's championed innovation, you're all about water, about data, and you've done that throughout your career. What is one of the barriers that you always run into in really advancing the integration of what we do in water with data? Because you mentioned how important they are, but there's still a long ways to go. And just from your experience over the years, I wanted to see if you could share some of the barriers that you saw, but some of the also the great opportunities that you're seeing.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest barriers, but at the same time, it's an opportunity, is public education and understanding. Far too many Californians just take it for granted that when they turn on the faucet, that water is going to come out and that water is going to be healthy and safe to drink. And in most places, still very affordable and reasonably priced. That's getting harder and harder to maintain. So I guess in some ways, maybe the water utilities have been doing too good of a job to conceal the challenges. We can't afford to hide anymore. We know that in some places there's water rate increases pressures that customers don't want to really hear about, or local government officials that have to vote on rate increases would rather not have to entertain or grapple with. But that's what happens when we have a reduced supply and increasing demand. So again, offering a tremendous opportunity for innovation in this space. If we can capture and store more of the resource when we get it. We don't get it as often as we'd like, but when we do get it, we got to make the most of it, being more efficient with it. So that's the water efficiency and water recycling conversation. We can't continue to grow our population and grow our economy, but it's going to take data sharing, collaboration, and partnership to do so.
Well, all of us are right behind you, and we need leaders like you to really, from the top, emphasize the importance of getting our facts together, modernizing how we look at these facts, and taking action sooner than later to actually make an impact. So, what's the thing that you love the most, and what's the hardest thing about being a U.S. senator? For those in the audience here who are aspiring to be the next in the future Senator Padilla, what's your experience?
So, well, what I love the most, I mean, I think just the sheer opportunities that we have each and every day. I wake up in the morning and have a choice to make. Would I like to be part of addressing the biggest issues for California, for the country, and for the planet, or not? Right? I can maybe go do something else, but I really do enjoy the challenges and trying to be constructive and productive in addressing those challenges. The toughest part of the job, as my friend Peter Villegas can tell you, it's the traveling back and forth. My wife Angela, my three boys are still living in Los Angeles, so when I have to spend a couple of days away from them, we're a tight knit family. That's probably the toughest part, but it's an important opportunity, an important role to play, and so we're finding that balance and trying to make the world a better place.
Thank you again so much, Senator Padilla, for your time. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you in person at our future events. And in the meantime, just continue to be the leader that you are. We're all rooting for you. And thank you so much for spending the time with us.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a great summit.